Welcome to the first podcast for Adelaide City Talks. We're still working on the name. My name is Henry Davis, and I'm I'm no longer a candidate.
No.
I am now an elected member from the Adelaide City Council from South Ward, and my co-host is
Mary Couros, and I am re-elected as the North Ward Councillor for the City of Adelaide.
Congratulations.
Thank you, and congratulations to you too.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You ran on an independent platform, yes?
I did, yes.
Fantastic, good work.
At some point, I decided to start my own faction
Yes.
called One Adelaide.
Oh, great. How
because
many members do you have?
One.
Oh, great.
That's why it's called One Adelaide. And so I actually did a press release because everyone was saying to me whether I was part of Team Adelaide or whether I wasn't. So everyone was kind of
Yeah.
trying to figure out
Yeah.
which team I was in, and because I was a former member of the Liberal Party,
Yes.
people were saying I was part of Team Adelaide, and I was
Yeah.
like, well, I could just be my own faction. So I
Yeah.
did a press release, and
Great.
that annoyed a lot of people.
Oh, it annoyed people? Well, I
Yeah.
think it's great. So we had One Adelaide, we had Team Adelaide, and we had Team North Adelaide.
Yeah, I call them not Team Adelaide.
Not Team Adelaide.
Yeah.
Because it's still a faction anyway.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that was a voting pattern.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, because my understanding is, and you're accused of being in Team Adelaide.
Absolutely. And I'm still trying to figure out what that all means.
Yes.
Because it was very evident through the last term of council that not everyone did vote on the same matters,
Yep.
but on the very important issues, there was a pattern,
Yep.
only because logic prevails. you
Yeah,
know?
sure. And look, you kind of do fall into that habit, I suppose. People do
You do.
generally think the same kind of thought processes.
You do.
And it's,
But it was very hard for me, Henry, to reconcile all of that because I was really honestly voting to where I thought the best possible outcome it was for the city. But hey,
yeah.
headline's
totally.
a headline, isn't it?
I thought it was interesting because there was a podcast that was done through City Mag or whatever it was, and they had a journalist talking about the voting patterns, and they were saying that Team Adelaide was accused of being a faction because they were voting so regularly together, but the exact same number on the not Team Adelaide faction, they voted the same number of motions the same way together as well.
Exactly.
And yet they were seen as not a faction or portrayed as not a faction. I thought that was just bizarre.
Well, I think you're talking about in Daily.
Yeah, in Daily.
And
yeah.
in Daily very much reports to the way that they see things, I think, in my opinion, but they don't really tell you the both sides. That's just my opinion. Hopefully we get much better reporting from this term of council and that they get both sides of the argument.
Yeah,
because
sure.
there always is
Yeah.
two sides to an argument, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, how did you find your campaign?
I really found it a real humbling experience. And I really mean that because I wasn't going to run, Henry. It was a really difficult term last term. I didn't want to put my family through that again.
Yep.
And I had to think twice. But with my encouragement from my partner, he knows how passionate I am about the city and North Adelaide. And he said, look, give it a go and go out there and speak your truth and talk to people about what you want to do and the visions that you see for the city and for North Adelaide. And I did that. And I thought whatever will be, will be. And at the door, I met such amazing people. And I was really, really feeling very encouraged from all that. And the more I campaigned, the more the weeks went by, the more excited I got and the more I knocked on doors and delivered on policies that I want to implement within the City of Adelaide, and I really enjoyed it. And then I thought, look, if I have success, great. If I don't,
Still a worthwhile experience.
yeah, it was a real great experience.
What was the
And,
vote like for you in the end? Did you because Phil, our deputy Lord Mayor, was also elected?
Yes.
Did you two come out quite ahead? Did you go
Well,
quota?
I
How'd you go?
believe Phil got quota.
Yep.
And then I wasn't far behind him at about 650, 700 votes.
Oh right, yeah. Wow.
Primary votes.
Primary votes. That's
Primary
massive.
votes.
That's huge.
Yeah. So I think after that, the primary votes under that were 400.
Yeah, right.
Then
So
one
about
200 and then one at 100.
a good couple of hundred in front.
Yeah. So I was very much ahead.
I did
and-
not have that experience.
So what was your experience like as a first-time councillor?
Yeah, so it's been
campaigning for the City of Adelaide.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's been a bloody tough year. I'd say because
Yeah.
I started my own business.
Yes.
And then we've had 4 elections this year.
Yes.
And I actually started really, really early. So in March, that's when I started planning. So I'd moved, I've been in Burnside for 8 years as a councillor there, and done quite well in a couple of election campaigns. I got, I think, 900 primaries out of 1,200 in the last election, which was a great result.
Great.
And then coming to Adelaide City, where it's a fresh start, you don't know anybody, that's quite a nerve-wracking experience, I suppose, you know, as you know, running for any election, because you're putting out yourself out there to be judged. And so, I put my name up for Adelaide City Council. I've been living here for 2 years, and I also have a business here, so it made a lot of sense for me to run in my electorate. Put my hand up, and it was when the election results came out on Sunday. That was the first primary votes. I was a bit nervous because Councillor Snape, he was an area councillor before, of course, as you know, he got quota very quickly. So he got about 750 primary votes, which put him over quota by about 60. Yeah. Then there were 4 people in the running for 2 positions, and we all sitting around 260. And so the way that the electoral system works, the lowest person on the thing, on the list drops off, and then they get redistributed. So I had absolutely no idea how I was going. But in the end, did quite well. And I think I got over quota, so 713. And so not too far behind Councillor Snape, and then Mark Siebentritt third. So, but I started really early. So I started in March. I was preparing all my material, did all my photography, started drafting all my letters and my vision plan. And then my first mail drop was in July. So it's been a long 6 months.
Yeah, no, you did start very early. I did see that.
Yeah,
so,
I figured that if I could get if I was the first person that people would recognise, maybe that would give me a little bit of an advantage.
Well, it did work to your advantage. Here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are. Well, we had our second council meeting Tuesday on the 13th December. The first one was quite brief. We went through just a few items, but this one was a fairly lengthy one. How did you find it?
Yeah, it's different. So obviously, because it's a little bit different when I'm currently a leopard with spots and I've got to change them. Yes. So the way the standing orders work and the way the procedures work, it's really, really different. I can't believe it. So we stand up, and then they bring in this shiny silver mace, and followed by the Lord Mayor, and then we do our formal stuff. So that's fascinating to me. I love the chamber and the formality of it.
We start off by acknowledging country. Then we go acknowledging Colonel William Light. Then we go for a prayer. Then we have a memorial service silence. Memorial silence, shall I say? And then we go straight into it.
Yeah.
And we did.
We got through heaps.
We did. So the first point of business was obviously the election to the boards.
Yes.
So we appointed people from the Audit Risk Committee to the Council Assessment Panel to Reconciliation Committee to Catatilla, which is the APLA.
And all those votes came back 7-5.
7-5 for all of them.
So there's 12 in the chamber.
Central Market Authority, the Legislative Council member appointments, Council member appointment for the Australia Day Council. Yeah, very much 7-5, 7-5. There was a pattern, wasn't there?
There definitely was.
Yeah.
So I found that very interesting.
Yes.
It seemed that some people were more organised than others.
Yes.
Councillor Slate was very organised, and he was nominating people quite quickly, and he was very organised coming out to that meeting. So I found that interesting. I hadn't really, I nominated for audit and put my hand up for that, but I hadn't really, really pressured people to vote for me or anything like that. But I was still glad to put my hand up, and I think I'm the deputy on the audit committee now, and in the running for the Festival Centre Management Board, which would be interesting.
Well, I wasn't as lucky as you.
Did you get anything?
I think I just got the Capital City Committee.
Oh, yeah. That's a pretty good one, though.
It is a really good one. I was quite surprised because of the way the vote was going. I thought, no, definitely wasn't going to be getting anything out of this. But the Adelaide Festival Corporation, 3 names were put forward.
Right. Yep.
And then it's up to the corporation to decide. So I think I'm on that list as well. But other than that, no. I really would have liked to have been able to retain my position on the Adelaide Central Market Authority, but that was 7-5 was the strong vote, and that went to Carmel Noon. So it is what it is, I guess. And we have a new council.
We do.
And we have a new faction, do we?
Oh, I think far too early to say that. You've been through it before, so my view is just coming in and, at the moment, that's the way the votes kind of fell. But yes, there was certainly a pattern there, and we'll see how the rest of the council goes. But of the people that there's obviously people that are going to have similar philosophies starting. But I think we've got a really good council and a broad range of skills, and hopefully will that won't fall into that voting pattern for the rest of for the rest of the term.
Well, I hope not, but it certainly did start showing as we went on. So we thereafter, through some formalities, we had our questions, we have confidential reports, we had the strategic alignment in regards to nominating citizen for the
Australia Day
Council. We did all that, and then we went into our motions.
How many motions do we have?
We had
12 motions on notice?
1, 2,
couple of
3,
questions?
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, about 12.
Yeah.
Which for me, I reiterated my motions in regards to main streets, master planning, to bring that in for the new members to have a briefing, because it's something that we're going to be really discussing in detail. The previous council worked really hard to
activate those main streets.
Absolutely, but now we've got the real deal talking about public realm and infrastructure in regards to our main street. So that will be wanting to fast track that for the budget this year.
You had your North Adelaide parking motion as well?
Yeah, that was by Councillor Martin. So he wanted to, which I second that, but he wanted to bring that in and discuss about the North Adelaide on-street parking trial briefing. That started way back in
it's so tough.
17.
Yeah.
It's very complex.
Yeah. I've had these same issues in Burnside Council as well, and allocating a rare and desired resource fairly and equitably, will not no one will be happy in the end, and the best you can do is everyone's equally unhappy.
Yeah, equally.
Yeah.
But you can never please everybody. But hey, like the new Lord Mayor says, if you get 80% of what you want, then that's a success.
Yes.
Dunn Street Car Park was another one that I brought through. Dunn Street Car Park, I don't know if you're familiar with Melbourne Street. It's a car park that we own.
Yes.
Directly off Melbourne Street. It is very much loved by the community, especially the businesses that rely on it for the community, for them. So I had a motion last term where to stop that as being a part of the identified as an asset, to discuss about expression of interest, and maybe we can talk about an expression of interest, wanting to talk about an expression of interest in regards to improving it. And so I wanted that to be put on the agenda before a certain time frame. And also the festival, Christmas festival. So
and activating.
Activating, not only activating a city,
having more of a strategy, right?
Having a strategy in which we can have more of an economic increase for the city, kind of like living in Adelaide, what it did for the city. It brought people in, it activated the city in different parts and different sections, from north, south, east, west. And if we can do a 4-year strategy in which we can do something that supports the city and identifies it as a tourist destination, and we can work within state government to do that, hey, let's do that.
I think Prospect this year have done a really good job in particular. So they've really activated their main street, and they've been doing like Find Rudolph and things like this. So there'll be like a little Rudolph in all the different shops. And if you go in, then you get if you find Rudolph wherever he is on the main street,
we do the same.
You get a little prize.
We have the same. We have the same down Melbourne Street. We have the Gnome Trail.
The Gnome Trail, right?
Yes, and that's very successful. So, we have a lot. They already do a great job. There's absolutely a lot of events throughout the city for Christmas, and I would love to tell everybody to go on to the City of Adelaide website. We have a dedicated page to that, and you can see all the activities. But I'm talking about taking it to the next level in regards to, a place where it brings people in via tourists, and creates it as a centre of attraction. Yeah, for sure. And that's what you want from a capital city as well. Yeah. And you've got to kind of, that is your epicentre for culture, ideally. Yeah. And also commerce, and we have the most visitors to our city every day of the state. So obviously we'd be leading that. And spreading that Christmas cheer. Exactly. What was it that you could tell me that fascinated you in regards to the motions, or that you supported or did not support? Well, look, I think that there was some political statements to be made. I think in relation to the Women's and Children's Hospital. So I'm actually on the Adelaide Parklands Association. I'm part of the campaign against the Women's and Children's Hospital. I know that the previous council had written to the state government about this. It's about that destruction of parklands, thousands of square metres.
for the new hospital. And in my view, it can be placed in Theberton. Now, the motion that was put to council, in my view, the motion that was put to council was to essentially condemn the site or say that this was an appropriate site for the Women's and Children's Hospital. And I spoke against that on the basis that there were better sites and that the council didn't agree with it. However, if we now need to work with state government, and sitting there attacking the state government over the site or renewing a campaign means that we won't get that seat at the table, that we won't be able to talk about how we can maximise the available green space and those areas if we're seen as a hostile entity to the state government. So that debate has been lost. The Women's and Children's Hospital is going ahead. Legislation has been passed. It is going ahead. And my view now is that the City of Adelaide Council should be taking a constructive approach with the department to arrange that. And I think coming straight out of the back, and there was a media article that was criticising the government's decision and in following on from that motion, which I think actually hurts our bargaining position and isn't necessarily in the best interests of ratepayers. But nonetheless, the motion was passed.
I agree with you in that retrospect, Henry. It's that it's done. It's dusted. It's passed, and we have had many motions last term of council in regards to it. We lost that battle, and I keep saying it is what it is. You cannot change that right now, but what you can change is the ability to have a seat at the table and be able to have discussions with the state government in regards to building the Women's Children's Hospital on parklands, which we all don't want, but it's happening, and you cannot stop it.
Exactly.
And to be able to I felt the motion was more of a wedge, and I understand that Councillor Snape is part of the Greens Party, and so I feel bringing in the political your political party views into the chamber is not constructive, and it can be quite dangerous. With that motion, he also had removing all built forms, which didn't make sense to anybody, which got a little
and I amended
confusing. That. Yeah, you did. That's
so
right.
It was, so rather than, I suppose, the motion, which as it read was to remove all built forms or work towards a strategy to remove all built forms within the parklands, which would be great, but it's a bit late now. I mean, we're not going to get rid of State Parliament and
Government House
and the stadium,
universities, Adelaide Oval,
the new hospital, So. We obviously, our parklands are globally unique, and we're the only city in the world that's actually built within a park. So to the extent that we can reduce that built form in the parklands, condense that within the city confines of North East Southwest and in North Adelaide, I absolutely think that's something that we need to fight for. And for me, actually, the biggest issue with getting the community involved in that is that it's very difficult to access the parklands on a more casual basis. If you're going there for sport or for a specific reason, you will. If you're a resident, you might go for a walk in your local area. But what I would like to see is a strategy whereby we can make the parklands a destination for families and potentially use or install an Adelaide recreation circuit, which would be a loop around it, which would then get everybody involved. So, next year I'd be looking at asking for a report about initial costs. I think it would cost an absolute heap because you'd be looking at building overpasses over every major road. But
that'd be great.
Yeah. At least, that could actually be a destination and experience for people who come to Adelaide.
We also had a motion in regards to the a review of the Adelaide Economic Development Agency, which was quite welcomed by everybody. It's always great to review our boards and processes and subsidiaries. We also had a review on the confidential reports and how they're processed.
Like something about 600 different confidential items, which is actually it's a fair amount.
But it's a capital city.
It is a capital city.
I mean, I know it's a fair amount in regards to suburban councils, but it is a capital city and it is very complex.
Yeah.
But, very welcome. We welcomed the reviews of that. And having an independent assessment on the
I think the
confidential.
Lord Mayor's point was quite interesting in that cabinet in confidence lasts for 10 years. I think federal cabinet is 25 years, but at a guess off the top of my head, feel free to fact check that. But it's interesting because some of ours actually go over that 10-year period. So it's should we actually bring that in line with our cabinet here in the state parliament, and we can actually just make that a policy and just say anybody who's providing us information should be prepared that no matter what, it's going to be released within 10 years.
Yeah,
Could be
so
good.
which we're all welcome to that. I think
For
they were
sure.
both very, they were unanimous decisions.
Yep.
But the one that really struck me is the motion that I had in regards to electoral integrity and transparency.
Yes, and I wasn't there.
No, you had to declare a conflict.
I
Why is
did.
that?
Yeah, so I declared a material conflict of interest under the Local Government Act. And I can now reveal, it was pushed out yesterday or made public yesterday, that I act for Rex Patrick, who has filed a petition and supporting affidavit in the Court of Disputed Returns. And he is contesting the election off the back of illegal practices that occurred. So the Electoral Commissioner has confirmed that there were illegal practices, and he's isolated 23 votes. So we know that there has been illegal activity, and I'm assisting Rex in filing that petition with the Supreme Court and acting as instructing solicitor, and there's also a senior barrister.
And so I know that this is currently under investigation, so you can't say anything more than that. But is there
Oh, I
anything?
totally can.
Oh, you can?
Yeah. I'm not a minister, or I'm happy to answer the question.
So is there anything more you can reveal to this investigation?
Well, I can.
Besides what we know.
Yeah. Well, so that we don't actually know that much.
Right.
So a lot of that information has actually come about through media articles. A number of candidates wrote to the Electoral Commissioner with concerns collectively about these alleged illegal practices. The Electoral Commissioner sought advice from the Crown Solicitor in relation to 4 apartment buildings and identified 90 votes that were cast from those apartment buildings. I understand that the Electoral Commissioner then went and phoned all the 90 people who lived there.
He said that in an interview with ABC.
That's right, on the radio. And then isolated 23 votes where people said that they didn't cast their vote.
Correct.
So that comes under... So that means that somebody has cast those votes on that person's behalf.
That's right.
So they've gotten their balloting paper, they've signed their name, their date of birth, and a signature. They've put that on there. Now, that constitutes an offence under Section 58 of the Local Government Elections Act in South Australia. And interestingly, where there's been a voter fraud, there is a burden that you show that fraud had a material impact on the outcome of the election. But under Section 73(2) of the Act, that onus is reversed where there has been a contravention of 57, 58 or 59 of the Act or a legal practice around that. And the under Section 58 of the Act, it's essentially filling out a ballot on behalf of somebody else dishonestly. And so that means that the presumption essentially at the moment is that these illegal practices did affect or did have a material impact on the outcome of the election. And the election would then be declared void unless the court is satisfied on the balance of probabilities that it did not affect the outcome. So that so essentially when the petition is filed, it's almost like in a winning position, and then the court will go through an investigation and try and satisfy itself potentially to get it over the line. Just a fun fact that the Court of Disputed Returns, it's not something. So I obviously went to university. I've been practicing for a long time. Nobody goes there. It's such a rare thing.
Yeah, well, it is, and I think I've never heard this before, so it's a really interesting to hear how all this unfolds and the processes and all of that. So, but with the motion that I asked council on Tuesday night, I asked, noting that the Lord Mayor.
Well, so I left the chamber because I act for Rex, and I'm acting for Rex Patrick pro bono.
Okay.
So pro bono means without fee.
Yeah.
However, because I'm the controller and owner of my law firm, that would give me a material benefit, even though I'm acting for our fee. But essentially, I could get a paternity benefit. So the appropriate thing to do under the Local Government Act is for me to declare that conflict and then leave the chamber and not vote.
Yeah, which you did.
Yep.
And so I put forward the motion, and it was a very simple motion. Well, I thought it was very simple. It was noting the Electoral Commissioner's public statements, noting the current Lord Mayor's public statements, and her letter to the Electoral Commissioner and her concerns, noting the advertiser's article on this matter, And then I was requesting for the CEO to write to the Electoral Commissioner of South Australia requesting a public briefing on the outcome of the investigation. So not of the current investigation, but of the outcome of the investigation, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's in 3 months' time, just so we can have an understanding if we have any questions in regards to it. And my point 5 is requesting the CEO holds a public briefing on how the City of Adelaide administers a supplementary role before the end of December. But the timeline obviously is very tight, so I wanted to change that. But the Chamber, I think they did, to January, and that the briefing includes a process used for validating enrolments and whether all those who applied to be on the supplementary role were contacted by the City of Adelaide. So really, it's about reviewing our processes again. So having an understanding. We did that for the confidential reports. We did that for the reviewing of the Adelaide Economic Agency. But this one didn't get up.
What was the vote in the end?
7-4.
7-4? 6-4.
6-4. 6-4.
No, 6-3, because I wasn't there.
Ah, yes. Sorry.
Is that right?
Yes. No, 7-3.
7-3.
So we had...
no, because the mayor...
No, if I go down...
Oh, sorry, 7.
Yes, yeah. So if I go down, it was Carmel Noon, David Elliott, Jing Lee, or councillors. On the other side, there was Janet Giles, and then there was Phil Martin, and then it was Councillor Snape and...
Siedenbrit.
Yes, Mark.
Yep.
How do you say surname?
I'm still learning it. I think it's Siedenbrit.
Okay, so that's 7. So 7 of them voted against that, and then it was myself, Aman Abrahimzadeh, and Simon Ho that voted to have this. So I was very taken back, to be really honest. And I don't know. I guess we won't have that briefing. It's the way it is.
Yeah, I separate to that, so I won't comment on the actual outcome. But to my mind, there are issues, and one of those issues are that how do we verify whether somebody actually is a valid elector? So we can have somebody who's who's never lived in the City of Adelaide. Let's just say that we have somebody, a fake person. Yeah. We give them an address. They claim to be a foreign resident, and they're here for a month. Yeah. Right. What are the checks and processes to make sure that somebody actually is living in that place and have been here for more than a month? Yeah. So in order to get on the supplementary roll, you only need to live in the City of Adelaide for a month before July, and you don't need to be an Australian citizen. And it would be, now this is not the allegation, but what are the checks and controls in place where that we actually verify that these are real people who are filing these things? That's not the subject of this case, but to me that is a glaring hole, and there's no ability to go and verify and check that. You don't have to produce ID or anything like that. You just fill out a form, you write your name, put your date of birth and your signature, and you say, I live here, and off you go, and now you're enrolled.
Well, that's what I was asking for. Yeah. I was asking for us to have a briefing on this so we can completely understand how the checks and balances are done, and now...
And whether we could improve those systems.
And whether we can improve our systems, because we've got the House of Assembly role, great, and that's, if you're an Australian citizen, but when we conduct our own processes, how do we do our checks and balances? Totally. And this is not about saying that someone's wrong or we're doing it wrong. This is about making sure
could it be improved?
That we're doing our job right.
Because that's what the current act says. So the Electoral Commissioner's view was, I've followed the law and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. That's right. But I think that there is absolutely an opportunity for us to improve those provisions to ensure that our local government elections, unlike state or federal, because you actually have to go to a polling booth. That's right. And state or federal, but here you get these packs in the mail and you vote, and you don't have to live here. No. The requirement is you live here for a year, for a month.
You only have to be,
and you don't have to be an Australian citizen. Yeah.
It's
and
amazing.
then you've got companies as well. So different entities who have leased premises, they get votes and all this kind of stuff. So it's quite a convoluted process. Even though I've been in local government for 8 years, and being a candidate, I don't really understand exactly how all these processes work and what all these roles are, particularly with body corporates and how their voting requirements work. So,
well, was there anything else that you would like?
You also asked a question on notice, which I thought the answer was very interesting too, as well, on the same topic.
Oh yes, I did too. We had 4 questions on notice, and I haven't got the answer here.
I know what the answer is. So
I had it here. Could the administration please advise the number of electors enrolled in the City of Adelaide electoral roll via Form 1, 2 and 3 respectively in 2022, broken down by ward.
Yes. So my understanding is that is this the difference? This came out
The difference
that produced the difference, right?
So I think I don't have the answer to the question in front of me, but
my understanding is that in South Ward in 2018 to 2022,
yes,
there was 48 more electors. So there was 48 new electors.
that's right.
In North Ward, between 18 and 22, you lost 48
That's right.
electors.
That's right.
And in Central Ward, there was an additional 1,587 electors.
Oh,
So
it was an increase of 16%.
yes, 16% overall,
Yes.
or 30 times
Yes.
increase than the
Yes.
other wards.
Yes.
Right? So everyone, and this is, I found this interesting. So my campaign in July, I wrote to everyone in South Ward and said, enroll.
Yes.
And I was, running Facebook ads and things like that as well, I believe.
Yes.
And so was the local government act. Was the local government association. And they were running those ads across South Australia, and all the candidates were trying to get everyone to sign up. But in Central Ward, there was a huge increase in the number of voters. Now, that has a couple of that doesn't in and of itself guarantee that something untoward's happened, because there's been a few new apartment buildings that have come in. So it would be very interesting to understand who were brand new electors to the supplementary roll, and who were now as part of, say, new developments. And you can do that math and isolate it.
Yeah, you can. I've got it here in front of me. So,
Yep.
North had -2%. Central had an increase of 16%. South had an increase of only 1%.
Yeah.
So, that's a massive.
It's huge.
That's
It's
huge.
It's off the charts. And
Yeah.
it could be because of new apartment buildings, but
Could be.
that's one of the things I'll be making inquiries into.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Well, that's that topic.
That's that.
Yeah.
Well,
We'll see how this unfolds over the next few months. But
right.
I did love the graphic that City Mag put together.
So you didn't hand that in?
No, I didn't do that myself. People were asking me how to pinch Photoshop. So it's basically Rex Patrick and I facing the same way towards a ballot box with these boxing gloves. And people are like, did you pose for that, or is it Photoshop? I'm like, it's absolutely Photoshopped.
No, I could tell it was very heavily Photoshopped.
Absolutely. But people were asking me seriously. I couldn't believe it. But
No.
it's a hilarious little photo.
No, it was great. Well, we have wrapped up for the year.
Yep.
We don't have any more meetings until 31st
Got training
of
next Tuesday.
January, but no meetings.
No meetings.
So we were going to make this a regular segment,
Yes.
and we're
Keen for
going to
Get
have
some
them
guests
monthly, get some and maybe get some guests on in particular.
Yeah.
Monthly. Oh, well, we don't know what our meeting structure's like.
Yeah, that's right.
Whenever
That's another half-hour podcast right there.
that's what our workshop is
Yeah,
about.
that's right.
Well, it's great, and just like to reiterate, this is our own personal views.
That's right.
And
That was a disclaimer I was meant to do at the start, but I forgot.
Yes, you did. You did it. So, I look forward to our next chat.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. This has been great.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.